So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, reading from Sri Bhagavad-Gita as it is, translation and commentary Srila Prabhupada. Today's verse number 4, chapter 14, chapter entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. That's on page 598. So, please repeat. Sarvayonishu Kuntaya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahat Yonir Aham Bija Pradak Pita. Please repeat. Sarvayonishu, in all species of life. Kunteya, O son of Kunti. Murtayaha, forms. Sambhavanti, they appear. Yaha, which. Tasam, all of them. Brahma, the supreme. Mahat Yoni, source of birth in the material substance. Aham, I. Bija Prita, the seed giving. Pita, father. So, translation Srila Prabhupada. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. Please repeat. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. Purport Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, it is clearly explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original father of all living entities. The living entities are combinations of material nature and the spiritual nature. Such living entities are seen not only on this planet but on every planet, even on the highest where Brahma is situated. Everywhere there are living entities. Within the earth there are living entities, even within water and within fire. All these appearances are due to the mother, material nature, and Krishna's seed-giving process. The purport is that the material world is impregnated with living entities who come out in various forms at the time of creation according to their past deeds. You must be quiet. Mukam karochi vachalam bhangam laite girim yapt kripa tamaham bande Sri Guru nidatarinam sarvayonishu kunteya murtayaha sambhavanti yaha tasam brahma mahad yonir aham bija pritapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. So yes, so Krishna, all the principles that we see in the creation are originally coming from the Supreme Lord. So this is sex life, right? That Krishna is the father and the material nature, as regards the material nature, is the mother. So in the previous class we explained that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, on the left hand is Radharani. From Radharani all the Shakti Tattvas expand. And on the right hand side of Krishna is Baladev, which all the Purusha Tattva expand. So Baladev expands in many ways, but he expands in this context in the Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, to govern the thinking, feeling, willing and action of the living entities in the spiritual world. Not exactly to govern in the sense of control, but to facilitate. So the child has to be quiet. So Vasudeva Shankarshan, the Chaturvyuha that facilitates thinking, feeling, willing in the material atmosphere, a spiritual atmosphere, then Shankarshan expands to the second Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, which governs the thinking, feeling, willing and action of the living entities in the material world. So then from that Shankarshan, Shiva expands. Shiva knows his origin as Shankarshan. But then from that Shankarshan, Mahavishnu expands. So Mahavishnu lies down on the Anantasesh within the pradhan. The pradhan is the base form of the material energy. It is spiritual. It is emanating from the body of Mahavishnu. It is called the causal ocean because within it all causes originate. So that is also known as the viraja. When the soul becomes liberated from the material atmosphere, it is explained there, Brahma Samhita, he takes bath in the viraja and raja, all the passions of the material world are washed off. And then he enters the spiritual world. So it's also called the Karana Samudra in the Sanskrit, of course. So Mahavishnu enters into the Yoga Nidra Leela. Just like I just said, all the principles that we find within the material creation or throughout the whole creation, they have their origin in the Leela of the Lord. So we are taking, every night we're taking rest. We are entering into Tamagun, But the Supreme Lord, he enters into yoga nidra. So he becomes forgetful of his self in this Leela, you can say. And Ramadevi is there, massaging his feet. He takes rest. So when he inhales, all the universes and all the living entities return within his form. There are many endless universes. This universe is one of many, and billions and trillions, unlimited. And they all then when he exhales, the universes come out in seed form, and he glances over the material nature, Durga Devi, and impregnates the living entities. Just like that final sentence. If you have a look again, the purport is that the material world is impregnated with living entities who come out in various forms at the time of creation according to their past deeds. So the living entities, the universes, return within the body of Mahavishnu, and then when he exhales, they come out. So how does he impregnate the living entities into the material nature? By glance. In the Brahma Samhita we see Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti pasyanti panti kalayanti chiram jiganti. That all the functions of the senses, Krishna can perform them with any part of his body. This material body, we're restricted, of course. We can only see with the eyes, we can only taste with the tongue, we can only smell with the nose. But Krishna is Satchitananda Vigraha. He doesn't have material body. His form is entirely spiritual, and all potencies are there. So he is impregnating Durga Devi, the embodiment of the material nature, by his glance. Like we see in the Shiva temple, the lingam there, right? So that is taken as Lord Shiva. So that glance is Lord Shiva, is part of it. Then within it is the living entities. You can read this in the purports of the Brahma Samhita. The living entities, and also their karma phal. And this combination enters into Durga Devi, and the modes of material nature arise through the glance, and the living entities are within the material nature, accompanied by all their karmas. Because when Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu, inhales, all the living entities enter his body, and they enter into susupti, into deep sleep. So when they come out, they become active. But their activity is impelled by their karma phal. They are impregnated into the material energy because they desire material, sensual enjoyment. They desire dhanam, sundarim, and janam. They want money, they want position, they want sex life, they want to lord it over the material nature, they want in forgetfulness of the Supreme. So the pradhan, which is the base component of the Karana Sumudra, is the Chit Shakti with an admixture of tama, forgetfulness of the Supreme. Because it is emanating from Mahavishnu when he is in his Yoga Nidra Leela. So just like we forget our nature when we enter into susupti at night, deep sleep, so this emanation of the Chit Shakti, which composes the Karana Sumudra, is the Chit Shakti with the addition of forgetfulness. So the material nature in its base form and in its variegated form has the potency to make the living entity forget his true self. Do you see this point? Just like Krishna says in the Gita earlier, Mamai Vangsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So the living entities, they're angsa, they're part of Krishna. Their true self is Gopi Bhata Kamalayo Dasa Das Anudas. Their true self is to serve the Supreme. But that is forgotten by the influence of the material nature. And so, especially when the living entity wants to enjoy, he enters into the illusion of material enjoyment, where he considers Ishyavasya idam sarvam, I am the controller and enjoyer. Please close the windows. I am the controller and enjoyer of the material nature. So this is facility given by the Supreme Lord for the living entities to pursue their material, sensual enjoyment in forgetfulness of the Supreme, in forgetfulness of their true inner nature as Dasadas Anudas, a servant of the Singh. Jivera Swarupoi Krishna. Yes, the real nature of the Swarup, his real bhava is to be servant of the Supreme, because he is angsa of the Supreme. The Supreme is his real self. But Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, he is an angsa, he is an individual eternally. But now he follows the ways of life in the material nature. And so this glance of Mahavishnu provokes the three modes of material nature. The pradhan is in a resting state previous to this glance. But as this glance takes place, the equilibrium is disturbed within the pradhan through the arrangement of the Lord. And it breaks into three. Just like white light, when put through a prism, can be split into yellow, red and blue. They're the three primary colors. So yellow represents the mode of goodness. So that mode is the mode of harmony. People in the mode of harmony, their mind, their body is balanced, their intelligence is peaceful, they are able to see things as they are. Now in the mode of passion, red, then the living entity is full of desire and longing, particularly for wealth, dhanam, janam, high position in society, followers, and then sundarim, sex life. So people in the mode of passion, wine, women and song and high position, they're full of this desire. The mode of passion people, they're peaceful, intelligent, and they perceive the material world with a sense of inner happiness, because they're in a sense of harmony. Their psychology is balanced. So the natural bliss of the soul comes forward to a certain extent. The bliss of being. So within meditation, in the mode of goodness, we're told, right, withdraw the mind from the external world, focus within, and feel the happiness, the bliss within. And that is there because we are as Angsa of Krishna, we are also Satchidananda Vigraha. We are also composed of that. But we're distracted by the agitation of the mind and the body. So in meditation, the basic format of meditation is to withdraw from the external agitation and the external desires and focus on the soul, the inner self. So the mode of passion people, they are disturbed by their desire. And then the mode of ignorance people, now the problem is that if you're a mode of passion person and you engage in unregulated activity, you can fall down very easily into the mode of ignorance. Just like, for example, somebody goes out, they have wine, women and song, right? Illicit activities or sensual activities. And then what happens the next day? They have a big headache. And they feel, they get out of bed, oh, I'll never do that again. And they're short-tempered, they're angry, their body is disturbed, right? They may have bad stomach, they may have eaten too much, or they may have eaten bad things, junk food, right? So we see practically that if you perform passionate activities in an unregulated way, you go down to the mode of ignorance. So people in the mode of ignorance, they sink into this inertia. Goodness is harmonic, passion is desire, activity, and then people in tamagun, they feel and then they may take more drugs, more things, right? Like heroin, opium, right? Hashim, they say in India, right? Hashim, right? Ganja, yeah. So they get some boost, but then after a while they become addicted and they become crazy, right? In the West they say ganja is wacky tobacco. Yeah, because it makes you wacky. You think you're saying everything very clever, but you're a fool. So people go down into tamagun, and if they cultivate this a lot, taking drugs and alcohol and illicit activities, then they can go mad, right? People become mad, and they become even self-destructive, suicidal. So this is the result of tamagun. So Krishna explains that. So how are we to understand the three modes? Because Krishna, later on you'll find, he explains to Arjuna that if you see these material modes operating and influencing the living entities, and the living entities will be born in the material nature according to their past karma. Because, as I say, they go back into Mahavishnu when he inhales, and then they come out. But they come out with the same tendencies. Though they go back into Mahavishnu, it's like a bottle containing water going into the river. It comes out the same, but it's going into the river, so it's in a resting state, harmonic with the river, but it comes out and the water hasn't changed its content. So the living entities are impregnated into the material nature according to their karma phal, their activities, their desires and their activities. So Krishna explains to the Arjuna is that you must see all this, you must see all the different living entities. Those that are in tamagun, for example, are the animal kingdom. We can say in there, like the lion, he's very angry, very possessive. This is my pride, this is my territory. Like the dog, right? This part of the road is mine and I'm going to fight you. So this is tamagun. But with passion, he wants to control, right? and certain animals, they're more in the mode of goodness, but still the basic idea is that they're in ignorance. They cannot understand their spiritual nature because they're in ignorance. And then within the human species, there are those that are ignorant, right? Drunkards, mudhas, naradama, duskritina. But then even below, this is Bhumandala, so below Bhumandala is Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. And then above the Bhumandala, Bhuloka, there is Bhuvaloka, Swargaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka and Satyaloka, which Prabhupada mentions there. So you're going up more into goodness there. So this is the place of the rishis, the great saints, the sadhus, the yogis, the siddhas. They are up there. And also those that have performed pious activities in the material world, they enjoy in Swargalok, which is governed by Lord Indra. But they're theistic. They may be enjoying materially in the mode of goodness, because they were regulated and pious in their activities. But then those that were atheistic, they go into the lower planetaries, the lower lokas. And that's where the reptilians are, the nagas and the daityas, the yakshas, the rakshasas, danavas. They all have different, it's explained that those 7 lower realms, they are 10,000 yojanas by 10,000 yojanas, and that they are stacked upon one another below Bhumandala. And below them is the Narak. If you've been grossly sinful, a murderer, a killer, an abortionist doctor, you will go to Narak and you'll suffer incredibly for all that. But below that, for example, in this material world, I may make a lot of money in business, and so I think I've made a lot of money. Let me open hospitals, let me give in charity, let me open a school for the helping of people, let me give cloth, let me give accommodation, so on and so forth. But I'm an atheist, or as they say now, a humanist. So I want people to have a more comfortable material life, but I don't believe in God. So they may become well situated in the lower planetary systems. They may go to those lower planetary systems, and is explained in the Vedas, the Srimad Bhagavatam, that those lower planetary systems, they have uninterrupted material enjoyment. The devas don't go there. When you hear about battles between the devas, the heavenly beings, and the asuras, it's the asuras that always want to go up to Swargalok. The devas don't want to go down there, because that's the place of impiety. But in those realms, they have their masters and leaders of society. And they are governed by the big man and the big leader, and they accept that. Whereas the devas, it's a very free, affectionate atmosphere, and all the devas, because they are pious and in the mode of goodness, they recognize the Supreme Lord. So as we see in the Bhagavatam, they have Sankirtan festivals and so on. And there, in the material, in the lower planetary systems, they have more sensuality. But they have anxiety. Just like in Tamagun, like we were saying earlier, the people take drugs, right? And they think, oh, I feel good, I'm so relaxed. But then the next day they have a headache, they feel tension. So in the lower planetary systems, they're enjoying sensuality, but the background is anxiety. And that is because, being atheistic, they're not touching the spiritual energy. What is the spiritual energy? Vaikuntha, the place of no anxiety. Now as you go up, like for example, just for our understanding, I have read that Satyalok is like 95% Vaikuntha atmosphere and 5% mode of goodness. And so it comes down. Whereas on Bhumandala there's a kind of even balance of goodness, passion and ignorance. But now Kali Yuga is there, passion and ignorance is there. But as you go down, there's still passion and goodness, but the goodness and the passion, and then you go right down, you go to the reptilians, the Nagas, and so on and so forth. And if you look at animal life, you will always see that they're right? If you look in the eyes of the monkey, for example, he's not relaxed, he's not hanging out. He's always looking for the big monkey. And the dog is always protecting his territory, So this is mode of ignorance. You may be enjoying sensually, but you're in anxiety. So again, you're never really fulfilled. And you have a big Lord and Master. Sometimes they are devotees. For example, we know that Bali Maharaj from the Bhagavatam, he's ruling in Sutala. Also Mahadanava, the architect of the Devas, is situated in Sutala. So they have wonderful, and this is the place below, they have wonderful technology and ability. But the thing is, above Bhumandala, in the mode of goodness, they have mystic ability. The abilities in the lower planetary systems is high-class technology, flying saucers, affecting gravitation and traveling in this space, but through machinery. But the Devas, the Siddhas, for example, in Siddhaloka, one section of the upper planets, they have all powers mystically. They project their mind to a certain region and they go. They don't need a bicycle. They just go by mystic power. So this is far superior, and they are relieved of anxiety. But they still have anxiety in the form that they know, I'm enjoying in the higher planetary system, but I'm using my pious credits. For example, if you have some big stash of cash, you can stay in a big fancy hotel, but only as long as you're spending your money, right? When you run out of money, they'll come to say, sorry, time to go. But yesterday you were calling and opening the door for me and cleaning the room and changing the bed sheets. Why are you like this today? Because you've got no money left. I thought you loved me. No, we loved your money. So people can go into heavenly places, but as soon as their pious credits are finished, they have to come back down to Bhuloka. This is Bhugola. And then this is also Karma Bhumi, because it's the most gross area of the material world. It's called Bhuloka, because here the material energy is very much in the grossest form. Earth is here, water, fire. Whereas you go up higher, it's in a more subtle form. The gross and the elements are less, and they're more in the subtle form. And same thing as you go down, you go into a more subtle form, but it's gradual as you go down below. So same thing in the lower planets. You may become a ruler there, a big man in the lower planetary system, you've been, let's say, a generous charity giver, but you'll only stay there in that high position for a certain amount of time. There's that verse in the Brahma Samhita, Yastvindra gopam atavendra mahosva karma bandhana rupam falambhajanam atanoti karmadi nirtahidi kinchita bhakti bhajam govindamadi purisham tamaham bhajami. That I worship Govinda, this is Lord Brahma, he's the supreme living entity within the material universe. He says, who awards the fruit of all their activities and desires, no less in the case of Indra than in the small ant. Everyone is getting their karma phal. But karmadi nirdhati kintu bhakti bhajam. But those that perform bhakti bhajan, devotional service, devotional worship, bhajan of the Supreme Lord, that same Govinda, he burns up to the roots their karma. Because bhakti puts one in touch with the spiritual platform. And from that spiritual platform, then all the karma phal is washed off. Right? Because all that karma, the fruit of karma, pravṛddhe, aparabdha means manifest karma and karma that's lying in seed form, that is all washed off by bhakti. And then the soul in a liberated condition can perform tesham sattve yuktanam bhajatam pratipadyate. Then he can worship Krishna with love and affection. And yadā mam prapadyante tamsteva bhajami aham. If you worship Krishna with love and affection, he reciprocates with love and affection. And then Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadakabanai Shravanadi Sudha Chitte Karidayodai. Then that blossoms. The fire of devotional service, as they say, burns to ashes all the material desires and the material karma phal that's residing within. There's that verse, Tattena nukampatam Damana. I haven't learned that verse yet, but it is that those that just perform bhajan, and they will get a little token karma, it's burnt off. Just like this body that we all have, it is a result of our karma phal, right? So we are suffering with this body. Somebody's got a bad knee, somebody's got a bad stomach, somebody's got a bad elbow, everyone's got a sorry tale to tell. It's all because of karma phal. But as you perform bhajan, it becomes burnt off. It becomes burnt off. So therefore, instead of losing your leg, you might just cut your knee, right? Instead of dying of cancer, you may just get a stomach upset. So this is the potency of bhakti. And bhakti is what? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So Shravanam, by hearing about the Supreme Platform, by describing the Supreme Platform, by remembering the Supreme Platform, Padasevanam, by serving, Archanam, by installing a deity within the mind, Manaseva, and serving the deity within the mind, Vandanam, by reciting Brahma Samhita, so many prayers of Queen Kunti, prayers of Maharaj, Ambarish, Vandanam, Dasyam, developing the attitude, I am a servant, Govinda, I am your servant, I am your das. Sakyam, then friendly attitude, pratipadyate, worshipping with loving affection, and then Atmanivedanam. So this is the way that the soul is put in touch with the Supreme Brahma, the Supreme Krishna. We know Param Brahma is Krishna. There is the spiritual energy, but the source of that spiritual energy is the Adipurusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, this is the point. So this verse, this chapter, it follows the same format as you can say the previous chapter. Nature, enjoyer, consciousness. Krishna told Arjuna, material nature is like this, spiritual nature is like this, but there are two Purushas, the living entity and the Supreme Lord. They are both conscious. And so what you should do, Arjuna, you should not see just the material manifestation, the different living entities, their body. Rather, you should see that the living entities are expanded everywhere. The spirit souls are everywhere. And you should see with that eye of knowledge the spiritual platform. So Krishna is developing the same idea here. He's going to discuss the nature of the three modes within which the Supreme Lord has impregnated the living entity. And then he's going to say, and Arjuna will say, okay, this is the three modes. Now how do you transcend the modes? Because Krishna says when you see there's nothing but three modes. Just like this is production of the three modes. The gross material elements, they are produced from tamagun. The mind is produced from sattvagun. The buddhi is produced from rajagun. And so on and so forth. You can read about that in the teachings of Lord Kapila to Devahuti. The third canto gives a lot of detail. So Arjuna says, okay, everything is the three modes, and it's manifest as gross matter, as subtle matter, a contaminated consciousness. So how do I transcend it? So there's that famous verse, it will come later, Mam chayo vibicharena bhakti-yogena sevate sagunan samiti chaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One, that person who engages in devotional service, fixed devotional service, transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of brahmabhuyaya kalpate. He's understood to be situated in the material, spiritual energy. So this is the secret of life, actually. Yes, there's all this material energy and three modes, and everyone is enjoying their karma phal. We'll say enjoying, or everyone is undergoing. But the devotee knows through the eye of knowledge that yes, behind that is the spiritual platform. This is the secret, which is an open secret, right? All sadhus, all acharyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 6 Goswamis, all devotees, in whatever sampradaya, whatever, they are all talking about that there is a spiritual platform somewhere, right? Some may just see it as consciousness. Some may think it's just light. Some might see it as the great regulator. But through the Vedas and through Krishna's teaching to Arjuna, we know that the ultimate source of that spiritual atmosphere is personal, and that is Krishna. So, the human life, the secret of using the human life properly is to spend one's time realizing that spiritual platform. If we realize that spiritual platform, this is real religion, to learn the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to realize the Supreme Lord. And if we develop that awareness, that perception, first Shastra Chakshus, through the eyes of scripture, but then through sadhana, we can actually get in touch with Krishna. Krishna within the heart. Krishna within the heart of all living entities. Krishna as the support of all the universe, as all the principles. Then, that we burn off our material conditioning, and at the time of death we go to Krishna Leela. It's as simple as that. And there we get more training, more awakening of our Siddha Prem, and then we develop complete detachment. And then we go through the Samudra, Karana Samudra, the Viraja river, and then we become washed off. That is called Vastu Siddhi. Swarup Siddhi means when one is at Bhava Bhakti, well established, he realizes his Swarup, his spiritual form, his relationship with Krishna. But he may still be situated within the material body. But Vastu Siddhi means that the material body is now gone. There's no necessity to take another material body because there's no desire to enjoy material things. And then you enter the transcendental world in your spiritual form. So that is Vastu Siddhi. That is even higher. And that is described nicely, Jaiva Dharma. Jaiva Dharma explains everything, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So yes, that is the fruit of sadhana. Sadhana bhakti is Vaidhi and Rag. Rag means to develop attachment, but then attraction. But then we develop bhava, rati. And then when we're in the state of bhava, we realize Krishna, and then we realize our relationship with Krishna and our own spiritual form. And then that is Swarup Siddhi. And then when we have no attachment for Maya Shakti, and by grace of Guru, Acharya, Shastra, then we enter the spiritual world, that is Vastu Siddhi. So this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. He did it in the 13th chapter in a particular way, a general introduction. Now in this chapter he's talking about the material energy. Yes, just see, Arjuna, that there's these modes of material nature producing the gross elements, the subtle elements, the mind, intelligence, but you look beyond that to the Supreme Lord through bhakti. Mamchiyo vabhicārena, bhakti-yogena. Vabhicārena means undeviating. It's not like one day a week or something. He's constantly developing his devotional service. And then you enter the spiritual world and will have eternal life full of bliss and knowledge. Does anyone not want that? Who wants it? Okay, so let's chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. As Prabhupada would always say, don't stay in this material world, go back to Godhead. Okay, thank you very much. Any question? Yes. Oh, is that?
Yes.
Okay. Do what you must. Which one is which? I think we could work out a better system. Oh, wait a minute. This is not a very good system, is it? Taking the mics apart. Anyway. Yeah, okay. Ask your question.
Thank you for the lesson. My question was when any child is born, so
Go ahead.
he born with the mode of passion, three modes of passion. Then he choose what we asking.
Anyway, just ask your question.
So my question was when that child is born. So he born with all three modes of passion, so he just choose not the karma.
Well, there's a mixture. Never mind this. Okay, good question. Is somebody in the mode of passion or the mode of ignorance or whatever? So the thing is, just like different light, yellow, red and blue, they're the primary colors, but they mix and they make all the colors of the rainbow, right? So everybody in the material world, according to their desire, some people may be desiring, I want to be Olympic champion. That's mode of what? Passion, yes, desire. Now the Olympics are there in Tokyo, nobody's going or watching apparently. Anyway, but so he wants to win the 100 meters dash, right? So he spends years running and exercising just so that he can win one piece. I don't think it's pure gold even, right? Probably tin with a bit of gold paint on the top. So he wants this trinket. Oh, it's a very wonderful thing. Well, his grandmother said, I remember when they were real gold. That's just a bit of tin. So that's mode of passion, right? And then somebody, they may just want to take drugs, right? You know, I don't want anything to do with this world. Let me just take drugs, make the brain work. So they call it taking goodness. But then sometimes, and then the mode of goodness person is a person of knowledge, right? He wants to cultivate knowledge. He's into holistic. He's doing his yoga exercises. I want to be healthy and strong. I want a peaceful mind, right? But then sometimes the person doing the yoga asana, he meets his old friend and they go down the bar and drink beer, right? The next day he can't stand on his head because it's pulsating with a headache. So the modes are there, but there's a mixture and they're kind of fighting for supremacy. You understand? Like sometimes we're sitting peacefully, but somebody insults you. Oh, you this, you didn't go, you didn't do this, I saw you were eating so much. So you try to control yourself, but then you become angry, right? So the mode of ignorance comes there. So people in their constitution, they have a mixture. They have a mixture of these. It's not exactly in the constitution, it's within the mind, the sattve mind, but it manifests through the body. So a child, how is somebody born? This is very interesting. So the Vedas tell us when the husband and the wife, or the man and the woman, are having union during the act of conception, according to their consciousness, the blend of their consciousness, they will attract a spirit soul of similar nature. So therefore, say a man and a woman, they're very peaceful, they pray to God, they live clean living, and they have union. They will attract, generally speaking, a child of the mode of goodness, with a lot of goodness in it. If somebody is very passionate, then they will attract spirit souls to the womb of the mother with that. If somebody is an alcoholic, druggie, and his wife is undisciplined and meat eating, then they will attract people of that. But these things are external to the soul. This is important. They only infect the consciousness. The consciousness becomes infected. Just like the sunlight from the sun. You can change the sunlight, but you can't change the sun. Like the sunlight, now we're not getting much sunlight, but if the sunlight is coming from the sun, now you can put a red sheet on your window and it'll make it red. You put a blue sheet and it'll make the light blue. So, only the consciousness of the living entity is polluted, not the soul. Like I might put a blue sheet in front of my window and you get blue light. But I'm not affecting the sun. So all spirit souls maintain their purity. But because they're interacting in a gross and subtle way with the material energy, their body and their consciousness becomes polluted. So all living entities are very rarely in pure goodness, in pure passion, in pure ignorance. They have a mixture. Like for example, we saw that child earlier, right? She's a very happy child, right? Dancing in the temple. That's a sign of moral goodness, right? She's happy. But then some children are really going to take an arrow and shoot the monkey. So everyone is born with a certain mixture. It's never purely one or the other. It's just like the lights. They blend together and they form different rainbows. But then according to association, according to karma flow, they may cultivate another path. And then there's that verse, Brahmanda, Brahmate, Kona, Bhagavad-Gita, Guru Krishna Prashadi Bhai bhakti-yoga. Brahmanda, Brahmate. We're traveling around the universe, going in this life, going to Devaloka, coming down to earth, becoming a lion or a tiger, an elephant, coming back to human life, becoming a pious materialist, going down to the lower planetary systems, becoming a big man in the lower planetary systems, having your own UFO, flying around, you know.
That is going around.
You're going up and down. So the modes are changing, you see. But there will be a base constitution because of previous desire and activity. Kam and karma. Kam means desire. And karma fal. According to the work performed, there's a fal. It's coming later. Pravṛddhe and pravṛddhe. That's nectar of devotion. That there is unmanifest karma lying in seed. And then there is pravṛddhe, manifest. So this body is a manifest karma. One person has got a female, one soul has got a female body. One person's got a male body. One person has got a strong body. Some people have got a small body but they're smart. Some people might be tall but stupid. So or they could be tall and smart. But so there's a whole mixture. And that's why we see everyone is different, is it not? Because they all have this combination of material. But the point is, if we understand the modes of material nature, we understand that the soul is never polluted. It is the consciousness. Because the consciousness is fixed on enjoying the material world. The Supreme Lord is the controller and enjoyer. He's the source of everything. So he can rightfully claim to be the controller and the Paramatma and the enjoyer. Well, we're trying to be the controller and enjoyer. So we try to control and enjoy the material energy. If you read the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita, Vedavyas, he took samadhi and he saw that the living entities in the front of the Lord, they were all in joy in the spiritual platform. But then the living entities behind the Lord, they were trying to enjoy the material energy with their back turned to the Lord. You see, this is called bhakti-yoga. So everyone in the material world is bhakti-yoga. Just like when we come to the temple, everyone comes in the temple and they go, oh Radhe, oh Gaurnitai, oh Krishna Balaram. They're facing, right? But say now one day, you went in the temple and everyone had their back to the deity. Right? What's happened? They're all looking out at the shops. So that's the material world. Everyone is looking away from the deity. So all these people now, they're coming from Delhi, Lucknow, local people, whatever, they're all facing Krishna. So they're all going back to Godhead sooner or later. They're all getting purified. Just like beginning of the class, there's a little girl there. She didn't have a doll, but she had a little gopal. She's going around with her little gopal, right? This is bhakti, right? So the temple is where we learn to face the Supreme Lord. But in the material world, everyone has got their back to the deity. I'm, right, just like that Olympic champion. I'm number one. You know, I can run faster than anyone. What? Okay. Big deal. So, but everyone wants to be number one, right? We have the cricket team. We're the world champions of cricket. Or football team. We're the European champions. We're this. Everyone wants to be number one in the material world. I'm the biggest weightlifter, right? I can bench press 300 pounds. Right, 30. I'm a bodybuilder. What? Ananta says he's balancing all the lokān, he's balancing all the planetary systems on the top of his head. Ananta says, right? And you're lifting 300 kilos and you're thinking you're a great man, and it took you 10 years and 5 tons of steroids to become strong enough. And you think you're a big man, but you could lift. And what is the use of that anyway? What do you do with that strength? You go home and lift the television or something just for fun? So this material world is like that. You understand? And okay, now you're 20, 21, 22, you're bench pressing 300 pounds, I don't know how much they do. But wait 20 years and see if you can do it. Right? So everyone is in this dream of false attainment. Right? I've been a century in this game. I defeated Sri Lanka. Okay, big deal. So this is tamagun, right? This is illusion. You're wasting your whole life. Why don't you spend some time reading Bhagavad-Gita instead of bench pressing? So the modes are there. Everyone is in a certain situation, but they're going through the flow. So therefore, it is very important that we associate with people in the mode of goodness, in transcendental goodness, because that will bring out that side of our nature. And that's why it's very important to be determined in sadhana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, thank you all very much. Oh, one question. A quick answer this time.
Just now we are discussing this. All the souls enter into the body of Mahavishnu.
Yeah.
But when again all the souls return back, creation starts. But Lord is Sachinanda Vigraha, right? When they return back, they cannot change their consciousness cannot change.
Well, that's what I explained. It's just like a bottle of water with a cap on it, right? You put it in the river, it'll be the same temperature of the river, but it doesn't change the water. It's not mixing.
It's not mixing.
So the living entities, when Krishna breathes in, they all return with their karma, with their desires, you see. But it's like,
karma cannot change.
and this is so people say, but it is the arrangement of the Lord. You understand? Well, this example is given in the Vedanta Sutra. Just like when we have a deep sleep at night, we go into susupti. You know, sometimes you wake up and you think, oh, I slept really well. Right? That was because you were in susupti. So the example is given in the purports, Baladeva Vibhushan of the Vedanta Sutra, that susupti means the mind stops. And you go into a Brahman state. You go into the current of Brahman, in the river of Brahman. But you're like a bottle. You go down and you become peaceful within the river. But then you come up and then you have, what's it called, swapna, dreaming state. And then you have jagra, then your waking state. Jagra, you're aware of the external world. Susupti, swapna, jagra, and then turiya, transcendental platform. So the four states, consciousness. So we enter into susupti all the time. That is a Brahman state. That's why we feel refreshed. Right? If you don't sleep well, that's how they torture people, isn't it? They don't let them sleep. They play pop music to them, or rap music. They can't sleep. But if you go into susupti, the soul becomes refreshed. Becomes peaceful. But then it comes out into dream state. Dream state is the result of previous activities, desire, mode of passion, and then mode of goodness, jagra, awakening. So we go through different states of consciousness. Therefore, what should we do when we wake up in the morning? We should immediately think, time to plug in to the spiritual platform by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, right? So then you wake up and you take a shower, you're in the mode of goodness, right? So you wake up in the morning. So if we understand, this is the point, if we understand this knowledge, then we know how to govern ourselves, to associate with the goodness, right? Alright, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada Bhagavad-Gita Sadhu Sangha Ki.